Welcome to Revive Ministries Podcast. This month we are talking about mental illness and remembering our wellness. Remembering is a very human thing that we struggle each day. Each day we look at our calendars; it gets litter of things that we want to remember. There's cultural significance of what can be overwhelming, and I do not minimize this. Today we continue this topic, and we have a new guest. His name is Chidi. I'm really bad at names, so I'm gonna not butcher your last name. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Rob.
I just want to share with those listening a disclaimer. If you are in the United States, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. But I encourage all those around the world who are listening to find what resources they are. Find what you can that can be helpful. Chidi, I know people say better than I do, and I know we're gonna get to your book and all that you do, but I always say quotes have always been like something that I find that has been helpful when I'm trying to define things in my life or this topic that can be messy. Dave Spangler said it this way: so people think they're in a community, but they're only in proximity. True community requires commitment and openness. It is a willingness to extend yourself to encounter and know the other. What comes to mind when you hear this quote?
Thanks for having me. The quote is very profound. So and it's very apt for the conversation that we are having.
Mm-hmm.
For you to be in community, you need to be vulnerable, and you also need to accept that other people will be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So that vulnerability opens you up, makes you able to exchange ideas, exchange your deep thoughts, as well as accept people at their most difficult times.
Yeah.
So even the person that you respect the most, even the person that you hold to such a very high standard, that person gets to the point where he's vulnerable. You're able to understand that is the human nature. If you are not, then there's no community, to be frank. You're just, like you said, you're just living the proximity. So it requires that commitment, it requires that openness, and it requires, I think the other thing he did, I will have added would be the two-way traffic in terms of receiving and giving, the exchange of comfort.
Yeah, there's a difference between a home and a house. When you're at a home, there's a home that's different. You could have a huge house, but feel without anyone. I mean, you mentioned, pain. When we think about mental health, I ask myself, why do we remember pain? Why do we remember the loss? I'm not trying to minimize mental health. Why do we remember mental health? People are like, well, I say simply because of the people. Because of the people. It could be family members, it could be people around you, coworkers. That's why it matters. Sometimes we make it so complicated. It's the people that make, and the people that we love. I want to ask you, turning it over to you, Chidi, why is it important to remember one's recovery? Why is it important to remember mental health? But why is it important to remember these things?
Therefore, it's important to remember these things for various number of reasons. One, you are right. We remember pain because physiologically our body is not built for pain. That's why, for example, if you see a child who is attracted to candlelight, the light is very bright, and pulling the child away from the candlelight, and at some point maybe you are distracted, or you just say, okay, let's him get a feeling of what he's looking for. He puts his hand there and it gets pumped a little bit. He will probably not go near there again. We are not physiologically and mentally and emotionally, we are not built for pain. We are built for adventure, for goodness, for wellness, and for happiness. Okay, you guys in America, put it in such a beautiful way, the pursuit of happiness, right?
Yes.
So that's why pain is not something that is an outlier. It's something that we don't want to experience. Now, why we remember is because it's such a long journey. The
Mm-hmm.
recovery, mental health recovery is such a long journey. And it goes, you have the days where you're on the summit, you have the days where you're on the valley. So it's not a very smooth road. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
well paved road. There are days you want to give up. There are days you're asking yourself, I mean, what is it worth? There are days you're in this dark place and everything is shut down. There are days so it's a whole lot of struggle. Okay, it's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of struggle. So by the time you get to the destination, which is recovery, it's obviously important for you to remember from the sense of gratitude that you're able to go through this, and also the sense of hopefully not going back through that journey.
Yeah, and I think that, at least from what I find is the emphasis on the journey is very important. The idea that it's more about not getting something, but becoming something better or becoming something else. You wrote a book, Coming to Canada: The Ultimate Guide to New Immigrants and Travelers. What prompted you in writing this? And I know you have a book that you want to share with
Yeah.
us. So I find it very intriguing. I'm first generation American. So my parents, well, my mom is South Korean, my dad's Puerto Rican. So it's kind of like I even though I know the language, I was there's cultural things I didn't know. I remember going to school, elementary, we did things very differently in certain holidays and stuff. So I felt, different. I bonded with my first generation Americans because we didn't have the American Christmas. We didn't have the American thing. It wasn't existed. But before I just want to hear from you. What prompted you writing this? And I find it very intriguing. And if you want to share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we relocated to Canada in the fall of 2017,
Mm-hmm.
and landed in the beautiful city of Edmonton, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world to live, to be honest with you, especially during summer, when the flowers are blossom and the greens are out and the birds are singing, and it's wonderful to live in Edmonton. We had been widely traveled. So I had my masters in the UK. We've gone on holidays all over the world, including the United States. So we were expecting that with the wealth of travel that we've had under our belt, the relocation will be like a cake. But we realized that it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing like coming on holidays. When you come in, stay 1 month, spend money, and you go. Now you're coming to leave.
Mm.
So here we are in a new country and trying to find our feet. We couldn't find a comprehensive resource that could speak to us along that settlement journey. So we had pockets of information all over the place from the community, from settlement agencies, but there were no comprehensive, like I said, that sense of this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do at this juncture and all that. And so we struggled, find our way through that, this metaphor of being in a forest where there's so many trees and you have to clear the road, and then until you find yourself somewhere you could mentally settle. And so that's what we did, and it took a toll on our health, mental health, family dynamics. And so I decided to write this book. So the book is drawn from my own personal experience as a recent newcomer. Also, the work that we've done helping other people who have landed it since we came in, and more importantly, as it is the work I did as a humanitarian director for my multicultural organization. In that role, I helped newcomers settle and thrive by pointing them to critical community resources and information that they require when they come in. So all of that I decided to put into the book. The idea is it doesn't matter where you're heading to, whether it's Canada, even though the title says coming to Canada, I might as well have titled it coming to America, coming to the UK or New Zealand or any of the Western countries, particularly those that were colonized by the British. Had a relationship with the British, because it's almost the same pattern of life, right? It's almost the same way. So the idea is people come in, get the book. When they are thinking about relocating, they know what they're going to face. They know what they're going to, the challenges along the path. So they're well prepared, right?
Mm.
They're well prepared ahead of time. So that's what prompted me to write the book.
Yeah, a lot of times when people consider moving, there's a lot of assumptions. There's a lot of assumptions of similarities. I can't imagine my even thinking about my mom moving from South Korea to America in early 1980s, 1970s, and it's culture shock. A lot of times we just think, oh, I just need to learn the language. No, you learn a lot more culturally. How the dynamic things are more. There's priorities that, like, the way they view the older generation, how they view people, like how they interact, and I find it, incredibly intriguing. And a lot of times, I think it's something that's overlooked because our environment, how we deal with our environment, though we try to build on but cultural significance, and I think this is important, especially how we look at mental health. Cultural significance plays a big part how we view it, where our culture, our background is. So one quote I just want to share, just as a side note, is the greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. It's not like, I feel that quote kind of really sets in for me. You said you were a director of humanitarian in Edmonton. Can you share with us what, I know you shared a little bit, what was that experience? I know you kind of touched upon it while you were the director of humanitarian services.
Yeah, before I get to that, Rob, let me point out something that you just said that is very profound, and that is the cultural shock that surrounds the relocation process. It's something people don't talk about. So every one of us have been rooted in a particular culture. We've seen life from a particular lens. The stories we've been told, the experiences we've had, and everything. And so for you to uproot yourself, your family, from that particular safe ground that you've already known to somewhere that is entirely different is one of the most destructive things human beings can do. Okay. And so we think that even in 2022, because of globalization, information, etc., you will think that it is so easy to do. It is not. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, I have been widely traveled. Okay, I read abroad, etc., but still, it does not remove the sting of the cultural shock. Okay, and it's something that pervades every single thing that you do, from the way you talk, from the way you carry yourself, from the way you drive, from the way you parent, from the dynamics in the family. You have that shock. So this way is what you've already known already. This other way, you have been pulled this way because that's the new culture where you live in, which is the more legal culture. So how are you able to navigate all of this? It's something that is very challenging, and that is why nations who are built on immigration and who understand this immigration struggle, everything that they can do to support new immigrants, because it's something that you need to experience first. It's not something that new generation Canadians or new generation Americans will be able to understand. But coming back to the role as the humanitarian director, so having gone through all of this myself and seeing the pitfalls, as it were, the challenges along the road, my cultural organization says to me, okay, why don't you take up the opportunity, the role of guiding other people who are coming in? So it's more like what our Lord Jesus told Peter. The devil had asked for permission to shake you when you are confirmed your brethren, right? So so that's basically, I know what everybody feels. Well, not I know. I am imagining, and I've gone through what each person feels at each step, from the moment they come into the new country till they find their feet and settle. The reason why I can't claim that I know is because each person's journey is different. Each person's circumstance is different. But I have an idea. So based on the fact that I have gone through this myself, I was tapped on the shoulder to volunteer as the Director of Humanitarian Services for the Igbo Cultural Association of Edmonton. And so Once people land in our community, I'm the person that everybody gives their number. Reach out to Chidi. Chidi will be able to tell you what to do the first few days you've landed, and subsequently until get you into that space where you have a house, a home, and then you have your first job. And if you also need advice, subsequently you can always reach out to me. So that's basically what I did for close to 4 years.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we think about you said before, you said it's different just visiting or even just traveling, because I traveled a bit myself, than actually moving somewhere. And I also like the idea that you say, I don't like, everyone's journey is different, but normalizing their feelings is important. Because like the first thing, like you said, is shock. It's a shock to go somewhere uprooted. So if you can say that in the very basic level that this is normal, this is sometimes the hardest things in our lives, and when you're shocked, when you're able to hear that you can normalize that feeling for that individual and have steps to kind of get through it. It gets, I found that being very helpful moving forward, and I really appreciate that kind of work. And I want to ask you on in addition to that, what did you learn through this experience? What worked and what did not work working with these people? Obviously there's stumbling blocks, there's things that you learn. I work in the mental health field, so I know I have to learn things myself. So what did you learn along the way?
Well, as you will imagine, there are plenty of things I learned along the way. The book is not even enough to contain it, because it would then become so boring and so big and all that. And that's why I like the opportunities that you are presenting to share some of those things. One of the biggest thing I learned, and I try to convey that sense when people reach out to me, is that this is not a 100-meter dash. It's a marathon.
Yeah.
Relocation and settlement is a marathon, and I mean it from this sense that the way you run a marathon, the way you run a 100-meter dash, they're entirely different, right?
Yes.
In terms of the 100-meter dash, you want to go out with a dash of energy. You want to put everything within that space of 9 seconds or whatever it is. For a marathon, you're conserving your energy to last you for the long hauls.
Yeah.
The long haul. So what that means in practical terms is that you are in this for a long time. It's a long-term project, right? And you need to understand that everything will not happen at once, the same day.
Yeah.
So there will be pitfalls on the way. There will be obstacles. There will be challenges. There are times you question your sanity. There are times you question whether this is the right thing to do. There are times you question whether leaving sure ground will make any sense. But it's also important for you and that's what I said in the book, before you depart, to determine what success means for you. Okay. Better still write it down. So this is what success on this journey means for me. The kids are settled in school, they're doing well, we are doing well as a family, as a collectivity, not just one person doing well and every other person having challenges. We are more or less have community, we're participating in the community, that kind of thing. So you go back to it every time, just like you guys go back to your constitution. So this is the constitution. This is the constitution about going travel relocation. And so once you are able to determine that, you keep your eyes on the ball. So all the distractions you get, the biases you meet, the subtle racism that you feel does not amount to anything, because you're asking yourself, in 5-10 years time, will this particular situation matter to me? No, it will not, in the larger scheme of things, and then you move on. If you don't have that long-term view about things, you're probably going to stumble a lot more. And the second thing I learned is that you always get better. You always get better, especially when you come in with the mindset to contribute to the community, right? So the other thing I say is the biggest thing you have in your hand when you come in into a new country is your time, because obviously you probably won't have found a job to do except you had the job before you came in. But you have time in your hand, and this is the time to contribute. Is that time you're going to contribute contributing, volunteering. And nothing builds up a community like people bringing in their talents, their time, their energy from all over the world and putting it into the most honorable thing you can do, which is building up our community. So volunteering is very important.
Yeah, that's I like the what you're saying about defining things. We don't take enough time defining what success is. Sometimes like we are so rushed, and it's like you said, you have time right now. You may have time right now when you're in the transition. It's wise to define what success is. It's not someone else's success. If your success is to be working, having having a stable home, but also having time for home. That's different. That work-life balance. What is important? Is it important to have the So I feel that's very important. But it's also important. Just what you're saying. Those listening will be like, well, maybe they haven't traveled much, or maybe they don't understand the cultural. They never even thought about the cultural impact about moving to another country, how it affects the whole family. I think it's very important, especially like you said, globalizations. Just because we could get somewhere quick and possibly live there, doesn't mean that it doesn't affect us mentally, or if we're not taking the right the steps to even reflect on defining what we are expecting, it can be, like you said, a stumbling block. In other words, why is leading up to why is the community important in remembering our mental health in this regard when we're talking about whether it's new we could say people who are coming from other countries, new people settling in, or just new environment in general? Why is the community involvement in a macro scale of mental health so important, you feel, in your own words?
We are not built to be alone. From the Bible, even God says it's not good that man be alone. We're not structured to be alone. At some point, the loneliness drives you crazy, more or less. So we are a species that have been built, that have been created to associate with other people, right? And so getting that involvement in the community helps frees you up from a whole lot of burden. Okay. So you're able to associate with other people, you're able to learn, you're able to express yourself as a human being, you're able to see that get out of your so sometimes it might also serve as an out of body experience, so you're not focused on your problems and your challenges, but you are working together as a group and learning to build up the community, serving other people. And I believe that the biggest call is for us to serve people. And when you talk about community involvement, you are serving people not just for the TV highlight, not just to be on the spotlight. You are serving people and doing the things that needs to be done, the things that government will not do. And you do it every day, and you go back home, nobody knows you, people know you, but you're not being celebrated. It's not like you're doing it because you want to be celebrated. This is the way communities are built. Strong, resilient communities are built when individuals come out from locked doors to welcome people in their new community, to associate with people, to build up things. For example, I have been on the board of my neighborhood league, the H1 Community League, which, by the way, was the first election I won in Canada. And on that board, we spent countless hours thinking about what kind of community do we want to build, what kind of place do we, in terms of safety, in terms of connection, in terms of wellness of the people who live here, because it is our job. This is where we live. Usually what I tell people is, this is not holiday. On holiday, you could reside in the hotel, go visit sites, come back to the hotel. But this is home. This is where you live. So you need to make it safe for the children to play on the street. You need to make it safe for kids to move across the street to go visit their friends and all that. You need to make it safe. You need to make sure that every part of that community life is built from scratch, and even if it has been built to reinforce over a period of time. So community involvement is absolutely important for mental health on many levels. The other part is, we've already mentioned here about the intercultural challenges and imperatives of relocation. If you don't get involved in the community, you won't have that sense that this is this is where I am now, and I need to marry where I'm coming from with the realities of now. I'll give you an example. I come from a country that has a burst of energy. We do things with energy. We do things that sometimes might appear to people like we're very aggressive. Okay, I get into a country where people are slightly laid back. So if I were to push with the level of energy, with the level of everybody would think I would find it very funny with me. But now you need to moderate it, not losing that energy, but also not being in the face when you are just in a country that's so. Getting involved in the community helps you with all of this. The other part I also found about is, and this happened to me from personal experience, my wife and I were, because we got involved in the community, we're able to know a lot more in terms of the resources that are available, in terms of the advice, the places to go, the things that have been put in place by government and by a community to welcome newcomers. We've made friends fast. We saw the warmth of Canadian people, because once you step out of your comfort zone and you come out there, and somebody will be interested in your story, and then you're making friends, I will realize that, and this is what I tell people, that Canadians are very private. They might not come to you in the sense of what you need. Sometimes they do, okay, but I want to frame it in a way that it will make a lot of sense. So if you are in trouble and you ask for help, Canadians are willing to go out of the way to help you with the help you're asking for, this assistance support you're asking for. But you need to ask, and you can asking by being inside yourself and by being in the house. So you need to get involved in the community.
And I feel we want to break those barriers, because I feel, like you said, we're not I used to say, like, we're not islands. We're connective beings. We need to connect. There's this word I'm not even going to attempt to say. It's, my wife has this untranslatable words. It's from Chile. It says, a silent acknowledgement and understanding between two people who wish to think or think the same thing and are both unwilling to initiate. That is not what we want from a community.
No.
We want to break those barriers, so there are that communication, there are that conversation, there are that growth. Because like you're saying, and like we've been saying, and what we've been saying in this podcast, community is a huge part of it. What community starts at home, your family unit, the people in your community, because that's your home. You're not just, and I feel it's more important than we would think. It's important to go, get the treatment or the resources, but some of the people you deal with around the community is very, very important. I want to ask you, what would you like? And I'm kind of like, we're segueing to, we're almost to the end. What would you like people to remember regarding mental health today? Like, I'm just saying, if we just kind of encapsulate, like, we're talking about this specific, but someone listening today doesn't maybe not have mental health really touch their family, or they don't really know, or they don't really take the time to reflect. What would you like to tell them, or what would you like them to remember, or even yourself to remember when it comes to mental health? This is Mental Health Month, this month, Awareness Month. What would you like them to remember?
Incidentally, Ross, in addition to writing the book, and that is part of which deals with mental health, I also work as a disability practitioner. So I work in the space where I deal with people who have intellectual disabilities, developmental delays, and I see them struggle a lot with mental health. First thing we know about mental health is that you can't see it written on somebody's face by people's. You can't say, this person is going through this. So first thing is to remember to be very kind to people. We have um, unseen but real struggles. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They're unseen but they're very real. So let's be kind to people. That's one. Two is when you feel when you need to guard your mental health. Guard it
Mm-hmm.
with all seriousness. You need to watch because it comes in those doubts, in those pulling down, in those self-talk, in those kind of wearing you down. One thought at a time. You think you are stupid. You think you can do this. You don't amount to anything. It brings up all the failures of the past. It brings up all the mistakes that you've made, tearing you down a minute. So if you are not careful about it and watch what is going on in your mind, before you know it, you've been done. So it's also something that we need to guide against. The third part of this, and you asked me if there's one thing, but we can't just say one thing. The other part of it is seek for help.
Yeah.
Immediately. Don't think that it's something that you can do alone.
Mm-hmm.
And the help can come from all kinds of places, and not just visiting a mental a trend, a mental health practitioner. Can also come from opening up to friends. Can also come from having having mentors. That people that you can speak to and say, hey, I am going through this. What is your perspective? Because I've also realized sometimes the things that we struggle with internally become a lot easier when you share it. That's where from the idea of sharing a problem, share this problem has solved. So have friends in the community, have mentors you can go to, have people that will hold you accountable for the going on in your life, more or less, and having those help. So, but the most important thing is guide your mental health. Everything that you have, seek for help.
I always say recently, accountability is not a bad word when it's a safe place. When you're in a safe place, it's like if you just started playing soccer, you're not gonna, or football, you're not gonna be amazing. It takes time. Also, the idea I also want to stretch is, you mentioned Canada, and like if you in the area you're at, if you needed help, you would have to ask, right? Some people, unfortunately, we're stuck here. Sometimes we're stuck here, and we're just sitting there no one's asking me. I'm sitting here. No one's helping me. But, culturally, that's where some of the barriers are. If you're not knowing this, you may feel more and more bitter because no one's there helping me, but you didn't ask. And that's the tragic notion of this all. Because culturally, if you're not aware, if you don't know how you define success for you, or why is this important, or even like you said at the end, just finding help if you are suffering, whatever that may be. I feel that it can actually be that stumbling block, that barrier that we don't want to have when it comes to community. I want to ask you, any final thoughts you would like to share with those listening? And just a reminder, to access his book, as you see right there, will be in the link, so you can click on it and all that, and you can find out how you get a copy yourself. Anything you want to share? Last final thoughts, Chidi?
The Mental Health Awareness Week, we've talked about it generally. Okay. There's one aspect of mental health and the relocation experience that people don't talk about, and that is when you are looking at it from the perspective of children. You mentioned when your mother came in and all that. Now I came into this country with kids, and somehow we tend to imply we have this myth that kids are so resilient, right? And they are so resilient, they can survive and they can adapt. Well, my experience this far is that relocation can actually be an adverse childhood experience for kids, right? So here you are taking them away from school that they know, friends that they meet, people that they've known all their life. You are bringing them into a new community, right? And this community, they have to find their feet, they have to find a school. Probably they're the only, in our case, people like me who have this, they might be the only black, for example, in their class, and they struggle through all of those things. Now they're going through transitions, You too, you're also going through transition, but you are focused obviously on the big picture, right? How do I find put food on the table? How do I make sure that I find accommodation? But they're going through sometimes life-changing transition, because now adolescents are coming with puberty and the hormones running. They're trying to find themselves. They find themselves as very different people from you. They are trying to make friends, and again, like we're talking about community, make friends and belong in a community. They're trying to settle in school. So all of these are going on in their mind at the same time, and yet we don't speak to it. We don't talk about it a lot. We just assume that hey, they will be fine. No, they won't, except we support them.
I totally agree, and I feel some of the two questions I ask when I deal with any of my clients or people in general is, first, do they trust me? Do they trust me? And the other one is, do they think I care? Those, like, especially, I heard those two steps when I was just recently at a mental health symposium, and I felt it strongly, but I couldn't put it in words as the speaker said it that way. And I said, exactly. There's a lot of information, a lot of resources. It gets confusing, but when I'm working with someone, when I'm able to say, Chidi, and you feel like I'm just talking to you, not 5 million people, I'm not looking at my phone, I'm just speaking to you, those are the things that I try to remember, especially dealing with people when it comes to Mental Health Awareness Month. When it comes to the idea that people are suffering, we can't see it. We can't see it on their foreheads. We can't see it. So like you said, be kind, understand that this is a journey. I just want to say thank you, Chidi, for joining us in this discussion today. It was wonderful to have you, Chidi, and I just want to share with those listening to remember to stay updated with Revive Ministries on various platforms. ReviveMinistriesFL.com is our website. This is goodbye from Revive Ministry Podcast, leaving with this last quote. It's from Oscar Wilde. It says, the smallest act of kindness is worth more than the grandest intentions.